What do business want? Money. Let's not get delusional.
Yeah.
Every business wants money. Employees, they want money. Okay, how can we do that? What is it that we need to implement in order to make more money?
How do you translate this message that training should not be mandatory, but competencies?
How do we feel about mandatory trainings? Everybody hates them. Why? Because the people today don't want to learn. I would disagree with it, but they require a different approach. But it's not because they are young, it's not because they are difficult, but because...
How can restaurants keep staff motivated under these type of situations?
I always recommend this to everyone. Honest conversations, that would be my first. So it's not enough to be a good leader when times are good. This is the time for companies to select the leaders, whoever stand there. The ones who are running away, let them go.
There are good points that hospitality groups could take from hotels. What would be those points?
In terms of the restaurants, I think...
Right, welcome back to Pocket Talk. Today's guest is Szilvia Olah, an organizational psychologist with a background that many people in hospitality will recognize. She spent nearly 2 decades in the industry, working across international markets, including China, London, the Maldives, building deep experience in how hospitality teams operate under pressure and across different cultures. After 19 years inside the industry, Szilvia moved into talent engagement and organizational psychology, focusing on how companies attract, develop, and retain great people. Today, she works with an organization on leadership development, employee experience, and talent strategy, helping the business rethink how they build stronger teams and healthier workplace cultures. Today, we will talk about the current situation in the Middle East, and more importantly, what restaurants and F&B businesses can do to make the most out of this period instead of simply waiting for things to improve. Welcome to the show, Szilvia.
Thank you very much for having me.
Right, so let's start with what do you think of the current situation? How bad does it look like?
Well, it is not an easy one. It's giving COVID vibe all over again, unfortunately. The uncertainty is what is the most difficult, I think, because nobody knows how long it's going to take. And it's very difficult to plan businesses when you don't know what you are planning for. But I think it's going to end. Dubai always and the UAE bounces back, so there's no question about that. It's just how long will it take for this to happen. I spoke to a few of my ex-colleagues. So basically now we are in March. Nothing will happen until September because the businesses went down, then summer is arriving. Confidence of tourists will have to be built back.
That's right.
Come back. That will take some time. So people will leave on summer holidays, whoever is staying. So it's going to be a rough ride until September, October, definitely.
Is cutting staff the right immediate action to take?
I think businesses, based on my conversations with others, they are very quick. They were very quick again, just like during COVID, that, hey, we are going to let people go. Well, businesses need to know how long they can survive without cash flow, because this is what we are talking about, right? And if they don't have cash flow, which showed also during COVID, then they will have to cut the stuff very, very quickly. Now, this is not the first thing I would do, but obviously business dictates, right? But looking at how else can we bring money in, rather than just focusing on, oh my God, there's no money coming in. Now, I know that the time is pressing, right? So it's not very easy.
you have to invent fast. You have to take action fast. You have to really come up with new ways to generate money, while you may not have your staff members actually available. I think it's not even just a question of what businesses should do, but what can they do? Because sometimes the staff say, you know what, we are done here, we are out of here. So it is a tricky time. But I see some businesses retaining staff members, which is I think a great thing to do. So let's talk about, positive outcomes. Let's talk about what businesses can do. What do you think managers or management team should be focusing on when the restaurant is quiet? And, at the end of the day, most businesses still have their staff, right, on board. How management can make the most out of this period?
I think the management and leadership, I think we can separate the two. Because the leadership should be focusing on how else can we generate money. How can I keep the cash flow flowing? Obviously, the cash flowing, right? And then the managers, the mid-managers, keeping the employees, whoever they retain, the core staff definitely will remain engaged. Now, you can go into training, you can go into so many different things, but I think in the hotel industry, we are very good at when the occupancy is low, we have our cleaning schedule. So do we have it in the restaurants? Do we have that? Can we have that? Maybe we can give people holidays, just to ease the pressure on the payroll. But being honest, I think psychologically speaking, being honest with the staff is one of the most important thing, because if we look at from the management and leadership point of view, from the business point of view, and from the employees' point of view, both of them are in the same boat and they are in the same situation, right? Because the employees are worried about their jobs. And there is nothing that has probably more negative impact on employee performance when the loss of job is hanging over my head. So is this the situation? If this is the situation, businesses should make the decision very quickly. In my previous company, when we were laying off people, we always said within 2 weeks, you have to make a decision and get it done.
Yeah.
And then announce that this is it. We are moving forward.
Yeah.
So that would be my first. Do I need to cut stuff? Probably, maybe, not so sure. But then moving forward. And how do we move forward? A lot of restaurants are preparing for renovation, to launch a new concept. Maybe it's the time, shut it down, bring it forward. If they have the cash flow or the investment, right? Bring it down, shut it down for 6 months, and then you relaunch it. That could be also an opportunity. So look at what are the strategic priorities for that particular restaurant group. I think hotels are in a little bit better position because they can deploy employees to different departments.
Yeah.
They can't absorb all of them, but it's probably easier. But standalone restaurant have it maybe a little bit more difficult. And especially we know the profit margin is very, very lean in restaurants. So
how can restaurants keep staff motivated under these type of situations?
Honest conversations, that would be my first. If the restaurant is a chain restaurant, for example, if I have a restaurant group and I have the restaurants in different cities, countries, I would offer my employees that, hey, some of you, would you like to move for 6 months? If it's applicable, right? So I could deploy people in different countries on the learning and development and training, go and see what happens in different places. Maybe in Singapore, you need a restaurant manager. Your restaurant manager here in Dubai is currently not needed, or you have too many because of the lack of covers and business. So move people if they want to, or if this is an opportunity. So will they be able to rescue and save everyone? Probably not. But keeping motivated the people who stay, that is possible.
Definitely. I think that can go a long way in a company when, a situation like this, you can actually offer another opportunity elsewhere within the company. Not many companies like to do this. It's interesting. There's a lot of international group we also work with. And I see some of them are keep moving stuff around. It is like is like a bonus kind of thing. You know, this is how they say thank you. While it looks nothing really a bonus to go to a different country, sleep in a different bed than what you used to. But actually, employees are usually really appreciate that. At the end of the day, this is a free experience. They get a free ticket at least to fly, and get to work with different teams. It's like you definitely grow during these circumstances. And I would think that the restaurants markets in the UAE is matured enough to do that. Most of the groups have outlets elsewhere.
Absolutely.
Now of course who wants to bear this cost, it's always another thing, but I think this is totally possible also for groups who has different style of restaurants. Even if it's only in Dubai, I think they still can move things around. Look, I mean, yesterday during the weekend, I was out. I don't want to name the place. It's a casual English pub with a terrace. There were at least 400 people. Like nothing happened. While, of course, the fine dining and the high-cost restaurants, typical DIFC or the Palm, they are totally empty. So, I think usually the high-end restaurants get it always first. But at the end of the day, people still want to feel like they have a normal life, so they still go out. It's not like they're not going out. They're just not going out to the places where they,
correct,
expected kind of spending a lot. So, yeah, that is an option. What can others do who don't have this luxury of sending people abroad? How can you make a shift into a coaching session? How can you focus on, I don't know, let's say talent development? Or I would think, I mean, this is one of the very few things actually you can offer. Training. Okay, this is my thing. People always find an excuse why not they're doing the training. We don't have the time. We are busy. Now this, tomorrow that. Now this is the time.
Yeah.
But how do you sell the idea? Do you have to sell the idea? Is it just about the right presentation? Is it just about to come up with actually a structured plan? Look, we normally don't have time to cross train or just simply improve your knowledge. How can you turn these moments into individual or group coaching sessions?
I think it's doable and it's very easy to do, because I agree with you. There's always an excuse why we don't do things. There are millions of things to do in any restaurant or in hotels, right? You have policies to write, you have checklists to tidy up. We have millions of things to do. And most doesn't cost a single penny. But it's just a matter of the mindset of the leaders and the managers. If they have to get their things together. Because if they are not, the employees are waiting for their leadership. I know a leader, it was very funny, that leaders always talk, how difficult our lives are. And that very senior leader, 2 weeks ago, I was talking to somebody. On Friday, he said, I'm leaving. By Monday, he left. He left his entire team to themselves. So that's not what we want to see in leaders, right? We have responsibilities. And that kind of mindset also represents during these times in terms of, do I continue or just cut the losses and very quickly I just panic? Because if you panic, then all you're going to focus on, how can I cut costs? How can I, save money, etc., etc. That's fine. That also has to be done. But let's not lose the bigger picture.
Yeah.
Keeping your core talent, the high potential, the ones that are really making a difference, they are the ones making the money, right? Make sure you do not lose them. And this is when you say, okay, so what is it that we didn't have time during the year because we were so busy?
Yeah.
Right? So it's not about passing time until the business comes back, but what are the things that we wanted to do that we couldn't, so now we have the time. Right? While managing the cost and everything that comes with the business.
100%. I think, we always say that it's always the management or the leadership. You actually, I like the fact that you separated the two. But it's very true. You usually have the senior managers who, supposed to come up with a direction and walk the talk and, show example. I think a lot of business underestimate this. But it's very important because if those guys are panicking in the first place or or show any they join the group and they are the first one sharing all the negative news and fake news and whatnot, then you're doomed.
Yes.
Because if staff member complains, you can understand they are in a different financial situation. They're more dependent on their job. They need a leader who they can look towards in difficult situation. And this is the time. This is a make it or break it time. This is where you show that you are a real leader, not by position, not by your fancy suits, but by behaving one that say, look, I know this is difficult. Bear with me. This is what we're going to do. This is how we're going to make the most out of it. Mm-hmm. This is the plan. And people can actually say, you know what, I can compromise because I see what is going on. I see how we're going to recover from that.
Yes.
I understand that I have to, make sacrifices, but I understand what is the plan. And there is somebody I can follow in these uncertain times.
Yeah.
But again, we find ourselves very often in a situation where we realize why most of the managers were promoted from line staff. So this is where it really shows that, okay, I've been a very good waiter or a very good soldier, and now I'm a manager and I have absolutely no idea what to do or how to behave.
Correct.
Or how to protect myself.
Yeah.
How can you guys teach within an organizational these skills? I guess this takes the most time, and it is not always down to training, I would think.
No, it's personality trait, is character, is really how much pressure a person can take. And I think these are the times you can't really train for it because these are very rare times. But yesterday I just said to someone, a very senior leader is in a hurry to be promoted to the next level. And I said, I'm like, you see, this is why I always recommend that leaders should not be promoted. They should be kept for 5 to 7 years in their current role, because these economic times, these tough times will hit within that 5 to 7 years. So it's not enough to be a good leader when times are good, but show me if you can be a good leader during tough times. How do we train that or train for it? You don't. It is a character. I think it's not a matter of training, it's a matter of selection. This is the time for companies to select the leaders, whoever stand there. The ones who are running away, let them go. They are not up for the hard times. And you don't want anybody on your team who are not up for the hard times, especially at managerial and leadership level. Line employees are very different, so we don't put them into this category. These are selection criteria for me, and these are the selection times. Don't train for it. The right people will have it. And this doesn't take much. So you're not looking at someone who is going to overturn the situation. No, but you are looking for those who are standing by you, who are showing up, who are motivated and keeping others motivated. You don't want to have anything to do with the naysayers and then the people who are just doom and gloom. Those are not, especially not the ones who are just, running away.
I think I already have a really good outcome from this podcast, because I think this is actually the perfect time to identify future leaders.
Absolutely.
This is the perfect time. And, when I talk to businesses, I don't know, I never understand when people don't see, a value of a learning management system, for example. And very often people looking at, training or promotion or a segment of a business that is all about to cut hours and make it easy. And I always say that, an LMS is, for example, is not just about helping you to share information, but to make informed decisions based on performance numbers. There is one thing I took away from you. I think I met you about a year ago. I always use this terminology. You once said, correct me if I'm wrong, but you once said that training should not be mandatory, but competency always.
Competence should be mandatory.
Yeah, yes. Competence should be mandatory. And this is something I took away with me, and in the beginning, I thought about it. I was like, is this the right thing to say for me who has a training platform, that training should not be mandatory? And I realized that, you're absolutely right, because you can, force people and design the best learning paths and, provide the best tools and everything else. At the end of the day, we have to be realistic. These guys are doing serious hours. The ones who want to learn, those ones are easier to manage. And anybody can manage an employee who wants to learn and want to grow. Those ones don't need to be managed. You just take the credit as a manager that, look, this guy is nailing it, he's flying, he's completing all the tests and everything. Those guys don't need to be managed. What do you do with the rest? And I think it's just coming down to a simple message and what can be especially used during these times. And this pitch is very simple. You just say, look, you want to shine, you want to show what you made out of this at the time. Anybody can be a good manager when everything is going well, covers are coming in, we're making the revenue. Anybody can be a good manager there. Show me now what you know. And it is the same applies, I think, for employees. Mm-hmm. You can tell them, guys, you can spend all your time in the restaurant. We have no guest. You can spend it in a corner gossiping about others and talk about how bad the situation is. Or you can use this opportunity to actually learn something that otherwise you would not have the opportunity to do.
Absolutely.
And, I just looking back, COVID time, actually, I was still a manager back then. And I developed more during COVID than in the previous 4 years in my role because I simply had the time. And I said, you know what, I'm not going to let this situation take me down. I'm going to use this time to develop new training materials, new policies, better ways to increase sales, better ways to engage employees, and a lot of things you can do.
Absolutely.
And let me ask you this then. What else? How do you translate this message that training should not be mandatory, but competencies?
So just coming back to what you said, we force people, right? And it's just not working. We know that. And I always said that don't force people. You can't force people to do anything in life because they will do it, but there will be no outcome. So what's the point of going through the notion? But assess people, assess them to that. So one of the companies, what we implemented when we did their onboarding and induction, they were assessed once a month for what they had to learn. And if they failed 3 times, they were out. So that was part of your probation period. You don't learn your job. You don't learn anything that we want you to learn about the company, for example. We're not going to train you once again. We give you the resources. We train you once. You have your online resources. It's up to you how you develop your knowledge. What we want is your knowledge, and we're going to assess you for it.
We pay you for that.
Yes.
And I think, this is the smartest way to put it. One of my clients, we lost a client not long ago, and they were telling me that, Janos, nobody using the platform. We tried a lot of platforms. They didn't work. Yours not working. And I told them, you make this statement based on what? Do people not engage with a platform based on what? Do they not use it, or do they not pass your learning requirements? And no, we cannot do this. We cannot force our managers to force the employees to use the platform. And I said, but based on what are you promoting or firing employees? How do you know if people hitting the baseline competency? How do you know that people representing the shareholders and the investors the best possible way? And I asked them this question there was a few people in the morning in the meeting. I said, can you tell me of your venue, who is the smartest, who is the bottom performer? They said no. I was like, how come? Is this not an information that you think you should know? Based on what are you giving the next promotion? Or based on what do you let people go? And they were, we got into a very good conversation where they asked, like, okay, but how can we force employees? And I said the same thing. I use your phrase. I said, look, you don't need to force people into training, but you have to set clear expectation. You have to tell them that, look, we hired you, we invested money in you, we provided you the resources. Now you need to prove us that you hit the minimum knowledge that this job is required. Yep. Show me that you're going to represent the company in the best possible light.
Yes.
And you have 3 months to do that.
Yes.
After 3 months, we have a probationary review. You're going to have to complete 4, 5, 6, 7 quizzes, courses, whatnot. And that will give us the number that will help us to understand where are you standing. It is as simple as that.
Yeah.
And I'm saying this based on the fact that other companies are doing this with huge success.
Absolutely.
And that's it, And then, obviously, if you set clear expectations, people will complete your learning requirements. If you tell them that, look, we paid for a platform, or here is your food Bible, but if you don't learn, nothing going to happen. What do you think people are going to do? It is not an engagement issue. You have a management issue.
Absolutely.
You don't have an engagement issue.
No.
You have a clear KPI or setting expectation issue, which should be the number one thing that you tell people on day one. This is the company. This is what we provide. This is what is expected from you, and we're going to test this knowledge in due time.
Yes. Yeah. But these are not performance-based organizations. So they are just showing up kind of organizations. A performance-based organization is where you have clear targets or milestones of your performance. So one of them is during your onboarding, you need to know everything about your job, right?
Yeah.
So that's your first KPI. That's your first deliverable, if you will. And if organizations don't put these KPIs to learning, then don't put any learning infrastructure in place.
Of course.
Because this is the same principle as universities or schools, right? They're not going to force you to study and learn, but they're going to test you.
Yeah.
And you're not going to pass. So it's up to you how long you want to repeat these
and
classes.
then based on your scores, you're going to get to the next level, and then you can get into better organizations and better jobs.
So it's the same principle. Never force anyone. Yes, we have mandatory trainings. How do we feel about mandatory trainings? Everybody hates them. Why? Because, oh my God. But what's the outcome? It's very funny that you said that, because a few weeks ago, I had a conversation with a head of department and number 2. And they said, can you please come and train my employees because they don't show up on time. They are late for meetings. They casually deal with deadlines. They don't really care about deadlines. When we have meetings, they come last minute and then they start setting up a presentation. So the whole lot of basically no discipline.
No discipline, yeah.
Right? And I said, I'm like, sure, I can talk to the employees. There's no problem. I can train as much as you want me to. But what will be the consequences if they continue doing this behavior? And both of them, mature leaders, looked at me like, nothing. I'm like, so why would they change their behavior? There's no reason. Yeah, but here we are nice, a family environment. I'm like, that's fantastic. This is exactly what you're going to get when you have that. You cannot set boundaries with anybody if you don't have consequences of their actions. So if I want you, and I remember 2003, Novotel London Hammersmith, my first job as a waitress, breakfast waitress, I showed up. We were very strict on the name badge. And I left my name badge at home because I took my waste home to wash it. And I left it at home. So I walk into the restaurant for dinner shift. And briefing, no name badge. They said, thank you very much, see you tomorrow. No pay, go home. I never again in my life forgot about my name badge. And that's all it takes sometimes. It's not being mean. It's not being, oh my God, how badly I was treated. These are the basic expectations. This is part of your uniform. And the job knowledge or the knowledge about your product, for example, in a restaurant, is part of your job. And if you don't know everything about your product, what you are selling, the service, then you don't know your job. Should you be there? And it's not me being mean. It's just these are the expectations.
I'm picking up some really good stuff from this. So, obviously there is this debate always about family and performance oriented sport teams, right? I've been coming from a group that were pitching we are a family, but that actually was working. It has blindsided me because, when you are into something that is working, you don't really see what is outside. And I see so many organizations, they are shouting on the top of their voice, we are family, and they're trying to get all this Pizza Fridays and all this kind of nonsense. And it's not working. For most places, it is not working. I think if you have a healthy environment, you can be a family. I think it is possible. Many teams are actually considering their team as a family because they're living abroad. They build up. But these are organizations who are retaining employees 4, 5, 10 years. So you obviously becoming a family. But none of these organizations are saying that we are family. They just are.
Yes.
But it is very true that, I think if you approach your job as a sport team, as a performance-based organization, or even if you consider your salary, I think that's the right way to do. But it has to be communicated very clearly to the team. It has to be explained. The expectations have to be set clear, and I think this is probably the best way to do a restaurant. What does a restaurant want to do? A restaurant is not meant to be a family. It's meant to be, providing valuable guest experiences and basically make people keep coming back for the service, for the food, for the whatever you offer, right? And I think when you present this to people in a way that, look, this is what we do here. We want to be the best. We want to make the most money, or we want to be the best. Okay, let's not even put it to a financial objective, right? But you can also say that in this journey, you can take a part and you can grow with a company, and then you can be successful, and then you can also make better money. But this is all performance based, and these are your KPIs, and this is how you achieve it. And we're going to monitor it, but it's in your hands.
Yeah.
I think as soon as people understand that their career, their salary, it is in their own fate, in their own hands, people are willingly doing that.
Yeah.
People willingly doing that. Actually, let me ask you this. I had this conversation, again, not long ago, where, businesses today tend to tell me that, Janos, this is not the same generation. People don't want to learn and all this kind of stuff, which I usually don't agree with. Because again, it's coming back to the same principles. It all depends on how you present it. I think today people are definitely willing to learn if they understand what is in it for them. I think people today asking smarter questions than you and I were asking back then. We were just told what to do, and then we were scared of losing our job, and we did it anyways, right? Today, people asking different questions. They're asking, what is in it for me? And you can disagree or agree or like it or dislike it, but you have to accept that, these are valid questions.
Yes.
Because today, if you say, what, you're not good enough, they say, okay, no problem. I have a new job tomorrow. They are not desperate to keep your job, especially if there are no opportunities to grow. So why not ask a question? What is in it for me? And then, as a leader, as a manager, you should be ready with the answer. What is in it for me? Promotion, better tips, higher year-end bonus. Take it or leave it.
Yeah.
And then people can make up their own mind. Actually, they're right. Why not train? I got a certificate. It makes my CV stronger. I actually can get promoted. How do you think about that?
I think also it depends on the individual. So manager's role is really, and it's very, very difficult, to be honest. But managers, first of all, it starts with the performance-based culture. We are building it with with the company just right now, and this is super, super exciting. That I'm working with them, and this is just, people understand it. Once you explain it to them, they will agree. However, the transition is very difficult, because if you were working with the company for 10 years and nobody ever asked you anything to perform or to prove your performance, and all of a sudden Szilvia shows up, can you please show me the evidence of
show me what you got,
what you got?
Yeah.
And that's a shock to the system. But once you explain it, etc., then they understand, and then you can start the process of transitioning the organization into a performance-based culture. It's very simple to be done. But I think for coming back to what you are saying, it is down to the individual, what they want to take away from it. In terms of today, people today don't want to learn, I would disagree with it, but they require a different approach. People change, right? But it's not because they are young, it's not because they are difficult, but because the way they've been raised is different. So obviously they are going to respond to very different things, right? But the first one is, I would always say to managers and leaders, and it applies to everyone, what motivates that individual? So then once you identify that, because each of us are very differently motivated, right? You can't really motivate me with money.
Yeah.
Maybe in some times when I need to pay the mortgage, yeah, okay, I'm going to put up with everything for the next 2 years because then I need to pay off my mortgage. But overall, I'm not motivated by money. So what motivates Szilvia? So that's the manager's role to figure out together with the employee. And it's very difficult because most of the time people don't know about themselves, what they are motivated by. So that's a whole other conversation. But what I'm missing, and that applies to the new generation as well, and this is where I think leaders and managers are going wrong, and I wrote about it in millions of articles. There are no consequences of behaviors in organization. And we just let things be.
Which is the craziest thing to be. It is the craziest thing to be.
It's just the same as these younger generations, and I'm not after them because, I love my Gen Z. But they were coming from families where they run the family. So they will never parented. Nobody ever parented them, right? Oh yeah, they do whatever they want because mom and dad will jump around them. We come from a very different, we had to adjust to our parents, right? And we did what we were told to do. Now it's a very different scenario, and it's not about this is right and this is wrong. No, it's just different. So these guys were never been told, you have to do this, you have to show up on time, you have to do the ABC. Now they come into these organizations where we would like to instill some level of discipline, and they go like, what? So, consequences of action. I will treat you as a grown-up because now you are a grown-up adult, right? If you don't show up, I'm just in the process of one of these. If you don't show up, you're constantly late, you get your first warning letter, then your second, then thank you very much. Because I only had to do this with 1 or 2 people, and the rest will learn. And that's how you create a culture. And that applies to performance. I asked you 3 times in the past 3 days during the briefings about this particular dish. You still don't know. And it's not me shaming you in front of everyone. I'm asking a question that is related to your job, and you cannot answer. So tell me, as your manager or the company, what shall I do with you? Why should I keep you when you don't even fulfill the criteria of your role? And having that conversation with people and taking action. Because if you don't have these boundaries, they will do everything and anything they want, and they will get away with it. And you as an organization, you're just going to complain about that. But it's not about them. It's about you, because you have no boundaries.
What system should restaurants or hotels build, that can be used in a near future, for example, after all this mess that is going on? Can they work on, for example, coming up with new, appraisal schemes, or should this be the time actually to do this kind of stuff?
Yes, they could work out, and it's not a difficult one, but they would certainly have the time. Okay, so business is coming back in 6 months' time. What can I do? So I do everything differently in terms of performance. What do business want? Money. Let's not get delusional.
Yeah.
Every business wants money. Employees, they want money. Okay, how can we do that? What is it that we need to implement in order to make more money? So you're going to have your processes, your talent management processes so solid that is everything is evaluated based on your performance. Your salary increase will be based on your performance. Your appraisal based on your what you have delivered. But it's measurable, not the competency behavior.
He said this, she said that, and that's what I think.
Measurable, and not the competency based or the behavioral aspects of performance, because these are opinion pieces. Nobody cares about them. So you are like in the hotel industry for housekeepers. It's very, very simple. They had 3 KPIs: room cleanliness, guest satisfaction, and another score. That's it. Can you deliver it? If not, you don't get your promotion, you don't get your salary increase, and you don't get your bonus. And you break it down to individuals. And all of a sudden, they're going to start working really, really hard if they want the money. And if they don't, or if it's not the right environment for them, don't be apologetic about the environment that you are building. People are so scared of their employees. And this is the time, partner with your HR. HR going to have to move away from this fluffy Pizza Fridays and happy clapping and all that. Put a system in place that helps the business make more money, helps the employee make more money, help the employees to see their career path. And that's how you engage and motivate. You create an environment that is engaging and motivating or motivational, not forcing people on coming up with activities. That's not motivational. That's just happy hours.
What can employees do during these times? Now, obviously, we talk a lot about management and leadership, how they should lead employees, but let's turn this back to the employees because, this is the majority of the workforce, line employee. Chef, waiter, bartender, okay? What can they do? They're stuck here. They offered unpaid leave or paid leave or whatever. But essentially they are stuck. They know that the business is not going to come up for a while. How can you... I think everybody knows what they should do, right? Okay, now this is the time to learn something new. I could maybe, get into more and learn more about mixology. Everybody knows, I think, how they should do it, but where do they get this motivation from? How can you self-motivate yourself? I think this is the hardest thing. I think, the number of employees that, I used to do a lot of appraisals and you have this type of people who are always waiting for somebody to change their life. They're waiting for coaching and they're waiting for mentoring. And, I think, that's a fair request to ask up to a certain point. But at the end of the day, it's all on you.
Yeah.
And I always tell everybody, look, tell me what you need, but don't ask me to figure out what you need. Tell me what you need, I'm going to make it happen. I'm going to give you all the tools that you need. But the initiative has to come from you because at the end of the day, you will have to do the legwork. You will have to get there. Mm-hmm. You can get training materials and you can get anything you want. I cannot learn it instead of you.
Correct.
That's the only thing I cannot do. How do you self-motivate yourself in this situation? How can you get out of a bed today and do that?
Not an easy one.
How long time do we have, right?
Not an easy one. I see it with people's performance in the past 3 weeks. It's crazy. It doesn't impact me. People have different mental health, right, in terms of how strong they are. Some people will put their head down and start working even harder because that's their coping mechanism. Some people's performance goes up very, very quickly. But I think what you can do is don't focus, always zoom out. I always recommend this to everyone with every situation, not just this. Everything shall pass, first of all. Would you have thought during 2020, this time, when literally we just went into the first week of lockdown here in Dubai, right? 6 years ago, like you would be, and 5 years later, you wouldn't even remember or talk about COVID because last year I wasn't even thinking about it anymore, right? So everything shall pass. But I think what is important that don't focus on what is happening right now. Acknowledge, okay, zoom out. What is the bigger picture here? Am I staying? Do I want to stay? Do I want to learn? What can I do? And a lot of people managed that during COVID time. Many people, millions, pivoted their careers, right? So you have good examples. People literally, okay, I used to do that. This was a fantastic push for me. I lost my job or whatever. And then they changed their career. They came out stronger. They came out strong. They came out strong. And so it's not impossible. But it's once again, it's up to the individual. If you just lay down defeated, nobody will come and save you. Literally nobody. But if you are at this stage, I think the first thing is just acknowledge. You know what?
So what are these stages? The first, I guess, is acknowledging. And then there's a grieving periods when you feel a bit bad for yourself. I think you have to get over it. It's absolutely normal.
Yes.
It's absolutely normal. You have to give your time yourself. Okay, I feel a bit bad for myself because everything was going so well. Yeah. Now they're not going so well. And then what is the next stage? So acknowledging, grieving,
and then moving forward.
Action.
Yeah.
Action.
What am I doing? Spend time. Okay, this is not great. Oh my God, everything goes. But don't stay there. Because if you stay there, you're just going to prove yourself right.
Yeah.
You're just going to prove yourself right. It's just bump in the road. And what is it that I can do? That always works for everybody. For businesses, for the individuals. And I think for businesses, I had one general manager or assistant general manager who once made a really good point, because we had these meetings, monthly meetings, sometimes weekly meetings, how to save costs, right? Because we are very good at that in the hotel industry. And once he was really fed up with this meeting and he said, I've been working in this industry for God knows how long. I attended hundreds of how to save cost meetings, but I have never attended a meeting where we ask how can we generate more revenue. And I think this should be the starting point. Manage your cost, but that should not be the main focus. How can I generate more money? Maybe there are other avenues you can explore, or pivot, close down, regroup, etc. Who are the people, the core people I'm going to keep, the talent? Don't lose your talent. Maybe it's the right time also to push them out, push those out who were not, really performing. There's nothing wrong with it. We are running businesses. It's not a charity organization. And then, guys, you are the 10 I'm going to keep. We're going to move forward. And this is the plan.
Let me jump to the top level then, owners. So, I always see a very big disconnection between owners and even top management teams. It's not the same. These guys are going for a yearly shareholder meeting, right? Where they explain yourself, all the excuses in a world that is, they're going with a bunch of excuses of, and this is their job, you can't blame corporate teams and all this kind of, that's their job. They see what's going on, but once a year or twice a year, they have to explain it to owners. What owners can do? Can owners do something? I very rarely see ownership getting involved into high-level decisions or day-to-day operation. They're not supposed to do that, obviously. But what owners can do that can help the business, can help the employees in it to get this over, this difficult period?
Yeah. So the owners are the cash holders, right? So the best way them to help the business or the employees is to keep them afloat with cash injection, if they can, obviously, right? But business owners can come out and talk to employees. These are the situations. Sometimes the high-level reassurance goes a long way. But owners, really, they just want the money. But maybe the best help they can, offer to the businesses in this case, in these type of times, that, hey, maybe I can park the profit. Because if their businesses are diversified, I don't need profit from this business, because I have the profit from this, if it's the case. So then they can divert money, and we see that many times they're happening. That's how many businesses are staying afloat, because the business owners has a diversified portfolio.
Definitely.
And it can be even within restaurant groups, right? So just like going back to what we discussed, if you have restaurants in Asia, they can keep these guys alive until the business comes back in here. It's not necessarily you have to lay people off. But what do you do with the people? If let's say you have 100 staff in a restaurant, and now you have every evening you do 50 covers. Even if you keep them afloat, okay, everybody's employed, they're going to be so bored. If this is your decision, then you better come up with a plan how you keep them occupied. This is where the training comes. This is where the restructuring comes, in terms of maybe I deploy people to different areas. You don't have to necessarily let people look at your resources. If you are just one standalone restaurant, the conversation is very different. But if you are a chain, if the business owner has different businesses, that's an easy one. HR get together with the businesses, say, we don't want to let people go off. Where can we replace them? Or where can we place them?
And again, this is where, the training really plays a relevant role, because if people are cross-trained to do different stuff, then they can do it. Look, I mean, when COVID hit in, I remember I was delivering food as a corporate training manager. We were all delivering food.
Yeah,
we switched from one day to another. We were a restaurant that never did delivery in their life. We didn't know how to do that. Our food was not designed for delivery, yet we reacted and started to do that. I don't see, though, this now. I don't think that people see the current situation like this. Maybe they should. Maybe this can be one angle. At the end of the day, people need to eat. I don't think that many people left to buy.
No.
To be honest with you, it doesn't feel quiet
it's quite
to me.
busy. Wherever
It's quite busy,
I'm
right?
moving around, it's quite busy. So probably the hotels, the touristic places, they got a hit. But the normal areas where residents are moving around is busy.
Yeah.
You just said the pub, right?
Yeah.
So move people around. Don't think small. And don't think in isolation. Because even large chains tend to think in isolation. Oh, I have this restaurant. Okay, but it's all in one. Move people around. Don't just let them go. And then you can maybe start talking about your EVP and your employer branding.
Let's talk about that. Let's talk about that. This is one of my favorite topics. I don't see any restaurant in Dubai, which is the craziest thing ever, doing employee branding. Okay, you do a bit of employee branding on your website, and that employee branding is basically a different graphic designer redoing your website.
Yeah.
On a career page.
Yeah.
It's a click and which file photo and what are our values. Nobody heard about this word, fancy words about what are our values. How can you work on your employee branding? What is employee branding?
Well, it's basically how people talk about you on the market, and
how you perceive as a brand.
Yes, and do they perceive you as a brand? Would your brand? This is how I always explain employee branding or employer branding. Would other employers like to see your brand on the person's CV? If they don't, or they don't, oh, who is that? You don't have a branding. So everybody would like to see, oh, Szilvia worked for Google, Szilvia worked for whatever. That's an employer brand. People they love seeing that brand on my CV. It gives me value. Mm-hmm. If I wouldn't like to see that particular brand on your CV, or it doesn't give you value when I look at your CV, it's not really a brand. So how people talk about you, what is the value? And that comes back to performance-based, or if you look at, and that's why I always banging on about performance-based culture. All of these brands that we would like to see on people's CV, because we value those brands. Oh, she worked for that company. Why? Because they are so hardcore on performance. They have standards. They have very clear KPIs, what they have to deliver. They have high, in terms of their capabilities, they hire the best. These are all performance related.
Yeah.
You're not going to have a brand where you don't have standards, where you pick people up. Okay, come to me from that particular restaurant, I don't know, and I will train you. No, I'm going to hire from certain restaurants where I know that they train them. It's just like the schools. We hire from reputable schools because we know that they have their standards high. I don't need to screen you for certain, I don't need to put you through assessments because the school did that for me. So I'm saving my money on assessments as well, right? So when you worked for certain brands, I know that they did the job for me. They trained you for me already.
This is always blows my mind. We offered, there are some big brands that are working very well, they're making money, but I know for a fact that people don't like to work them for because, salaries are not there.
Correct.
It's just hard work. The restaurants are busy, but they're not really getting anything out of it. And not once we offered, restaurants, brands that look, obviously we want to sell your platform, we want to get into your business. So, I don't want to hide my intentions, but we could help you with not only increasing your average check, but actually to decrease your staff turnover, because I know that you guys have a very best staff turnover. Everybody knows, restaurant businesses in Dubai, the top 2-3 who everybody wants to work for.
Correct.
And then you have those groups that are big, but nobody likes to work for them. They're not getting paid. They, people not staying with them for a long time. And we offer the employee branding direction to many of them, saying that, look, guys, why don't we, and we would be happy to chip in, we would create you guys some really good quality training content. We would do this free of charge. And then you could use this to get top talent. You could use this for your employee branding, because at the end of the day, I think today's employee market is also more educated. than the generations before. Back then, you were just going on an interview. You were hoping to get a job.
Yes.
Nowadays, people are going for free for interviews, knowing that they're going to go for free for interviews. They're not going to stick with the first one. They're going to go, okay, I like that, but let me go and see the other one as well. Maybe they got something else
Yes.
to offer. Money, accommodation, transportation, you get from everybody, visa, Nowadays, people, I think, they think, okay, what else do I get apart from the basics? This is basic now. This I get from everywhere.
Yeah.
Do I have development opportunities? Can I be a GM in 2 years?
Mm-hmm.
If yes, show me how am I going to be a GM in 2 years? What is the program? What is the career path
Correct.
that was developed for me? People today think like this, and I see very few business really responding to that.
Yeah.
And I think this is the best, as you said. Everybody knows those 2-3 restaurants that people want to work for. They don't have to hire. They don't have to go on LinkedIn and advertise. People are knocking on the top tier, top shelf employees are knocking on the door. Can I work here? Because I know that the name on my CV is gonna make me stronger.
Absolutely.
I'm gonna come here as a waiter. My next job in the next restaurant is manager.
Yes.
But they also know that it's not going to be an easy ride. I will have to learn. I will have to do this and that. But they know what is at the end of the road. So why don't restaurants do this?
But they don't do that?
Why they don't do that? Why not everybody do that? Or why not more business do that?
I think there is a place for... because then there wouldn't be top 5, no? You can't have everybody at the same level. There is a distribution in everything in life, right? Yeah. And where you want to be. You want to be working for the top 5 restaurants group or top 3 or consultancy. And the best ones will go. It's a natural distribution. Most will fit into the average, the nothing, right? No standards, you can come anywhere you want. And then you have the lower one, for example. But... because, look, if you are a restaurant owner, and I know some of these restaurants, that not no-name restaurants, the food is good, the service is okay, they make money, nothing extra.
Yeah.
Why would I go into Lang? I know business owners who would say, they wouldn't even look at the P&L. Oh, no, I know how much money I have at the end of the month. That's
no desire to do more or better.
No.
Or please people a bit.
No, because not everybody is with that mindset. Not everybody wants to be the top. Not everybody wants to be known. Some people just want to run a business. And I don't think there's anything wrong with it. And we need to acknowledge that. You focus on those who actually want to be better, who actually want to be known. Not everybody wants to be known.
Yeah, I see a lot of businesses trying to diversify now and build a portfolio. So, the business supported better in situations like this. If one restaurant underperforming, the others can support it. So it's all about now scaling.
Yes.
Rather than having a solid foundation, be the best and naturally grow. There were brands that they were absolutely nothing. And because of that one restaurant they had, they were doing it really well. And they actually expanded much faster.
Yeah.
Because of, they were really getting it right rather than just acquiring brands and open new venues.
I think every business or business owner has a very different intention when it comes to business. Yeah. Some is really about the quality. I want to be the best in the market across this particular, cuisine or anything. Some just want to, I want to run a good restaurant and make money. And that's it. So we can't expect the same from them. We really can't. It's the same with the hotels, right? Diversified portfolio. You have zillions of every star hotel on this planet. And then you have the private ones. You would ask them, why don't you join the big ones so you can be part of the big brand? They wouldn't want to do anything with us. Why? Because we bring our standards. We tell them what to do. We tell them how to manage the finances. We restructure the P&L. We take their freedom away. We implement hundreds and hundreds of thousands of standards, safety standards, protocols. And they say, that's suffocating. That's not a business. I'm not enjoying it anymore.
There seems to be a huge gap between hotel operations and restaurant operations. Obviously, the hotels are usually over cooperated and over, structured, while the restaurant business is usually the exact opposite. But I think there are good points that, let's say, hospitality groups could take from hotels. What would be those points?
Restaurant groups to take from hotels?
Yeah.
I think... Well, I'm not so sure about the standards, because I think in terms of the restaurants, I think the standalone restaurants are much stronger than hotel restaurants. Mm-hmm. I always said that close hotel restaurants, we have the standalone ones, they take care of it much better than we do.
Yeah.
But what they can is the discipline. We have KPI for everything in a hotel.
Yeah.
Everything. It's so easy.
Hence the reason you barely see hotels closing down.
Yeah. We have KPI for... I was just talking to senior leaders a month ago about their goal setting for this year and how they can contribute even finance to the top goal, to the top line, right? And the finance guy said, no, it's all sales. And I looked at him. I'm like, who is controlling how many towels we can put in one bedroom? Like, who is controlling how many coffee bags we put in every single coffee tray? Who is controlling how many coffee the staff is having every single day in the staff canteen? And the guy said, I'm like, who is controlling? This is all money is going from the profit. So in the hotel industry, we have target for everything. We have standard. If we say is one bottle of shampoo is one. It's not two, it's not 1.5. Because that 1.5, that half is money.
Going to accumulate.
We collect used soaps and we make money out of it. We make money out of everything. We compost the food, the leftover food. We measure even leftover food. We compost it. We sell the compost to the farms here in the UAE.
Wow.
We bottle water in-house. We invest money, $500,000, so we don't need to buy water anymore. We make money out of everything. And what restaurants, I think, also very good in terms of the available space. How much money can we get out of each square meter? And we have the ratio for that. We have the breakdown. So it's all numbers games. But when we run restaurants or any kind of business really as cowboy, I don't even know what's on my P&L. Well, every single line on that P&L has hundreds of items, and you must know all hundreds of items. Why is that flower in the lobby not roses anymore, but the other one? Well, we can tell you why. But it's all under control. There is nothing without a reason in a hotel. And I think if businesses adopt that mindset, it's easy.
Absolutely. I think, system can help a lot. I mean, obviously, this is the main argument now. So hotels are having a system for everything, yet maybe hence the reason they actually cannot run a profitable restaurant, because they focus too much on the numbers and how much you can do, while, the cowboys in a restaurant, they just focusing on, guest experience. Let's make sure, don't worry about too much this, and, let's just go for it. But probably there's a golden middle between them. And, for me, when it comes to training, I always bring up hotels as an example. Hotel have an allocated budget on learning and development. They know very well that the person they hire is not going to be ready for a while.
Correct.
You will have to invest in this guy more and more and more. It's like you take your car to the races. You don't go with the one that you bought in a shop. It's getting a tuning. It getting getting lighter, getting faster. Yeah. You have to constantly spend money on it to make it better. And if you want to make money, you have to invest into people's development consistently. It's not just like, okay, we hired you, now you're supposed to know your job. Go and learn it. It's not like that. So hotels usually have a system for everything. Okay, so you're saying KPI. I think, I would agree with that. I think a KPI can change the life of a restaurant. We have a client. They've been trying different platforms, and then they've been telling me, Janos, look, you're the fourth vendor we're going to use, and the previous 3 didn't work. So obviously, I kept quiet. I waited until we signed them. But I told them, guys, I'm going to tell you the bitter truth. You don't have a platform problem. The worst LMS platform can work if expectations are set clear. Any any LMS better than no LMS because you're gonna get data back. You can make decisions based on numbers rather than he said this, she said that. So until you don't set clear expectations and tell people, look, this is the goal, this is what you have to do, this is what we are expecting, nothing going to change. And it changed dramatically. They put KPI in place, they ask our help, what should we do? Guys, you don't need to overthink that.
No.
You don't need to overthink that. You don't need to, put crazy things in it. It's very simple. You have deliverables. You complete it or you don't complete it.
Yeah.
You give them a time frame, 3 months, 1 week,
Yeah,
2 weeks.
Absolutely.
You have this amount of time to complete this amount of quizzes or courses.
Yeah.
And, that's it.
Yeah.
You don't need to overthink that.
How you score on your knowledge test. So, for example, for restaurants, I would separate KPIs very, very quickly. So you have your knowledge, your product knowledge KPIs, right? These are all your test scores. And we can design tests in my last hotel. I designed lot of tests. And these guys loved it. When we implemented it, they were like, oh, we don't want to test. After that, when I didn't have tests because it was just short training or something, oh, we don't have tests. They demanded the test because they wanted to see how they scored. People's competitive spirit is so good.
It happened us today. So we now manage places as well. I don't know if I told you this. So we used to be just an LMS platform. Now we do off-the-shelf content, custom content, and we have outsourced training management. We manage venues. So obviously we see the biggest impact on these venues because we tell them from A to Z. This is the plan. This is what you got to do. This is the KPI. And then, there is measurable impact. People are flying. And guess what happens during this week? The employees are emailing us, hey, can we get more tests? We are here. We are doing nothing. This is the time to get free certifications. People are asking us for more courses and more things to complete. And they're literally looking at the leaderboard.
Yes.
And they're competing.
Yeah.
Nobody wants to be on the bottom.
Nobody
it's
wants to be. No.
It's embarrassing.
It is.
And
nobody, and you know what? If you are in L&D, which my L&D manager is doing right now, a fantastic job. We figured out all the KPIs. Now we have way too many KPIs for L&D, but that's another conversation. Because obviously, what is the return on investment for L&D is always the communication or the discussion. Oh, why should I have? So we worked out in the last 4 months, we worked out like 15 KPIs, all solid in terms of return on investment, etc., etc. And one of the KPIs is learning acquisition. So every training session starts with pre and then finishes with a post-training score, like quiz, right?
Wow.
And we can show very clearly, Szilvia went in, scored 30% on that particular. When she left, she scored 75.
Wow, it's amazing.
And it's so easy to do. It's just all you have to do, and people will have now the time to sit down for 5 minutes. I always say, sit down, everybody, think what you are doing. So for going back to KPIs, for restaurants, that could be one. For the knowledge, that's very easy. And the second one is operational, but don't overcomplicate it. If you are a waiter, what do you need? Guest satisfaction. But let's not club together everybody, because this is where people don't want to do anything with it. But give people the tool that if this is my table, I'm going to make sure that this guest is leaving the comment. Not just, oh, please leave a comment. Nobody's doing that anymore. I went to the land department because my house is now finished, right, in terms of the mortgage. And they did the process. Literally, I was escorted into another room, given an iPad. The person was sitting right opposite next to me, watching me complete the survey. I'm like, dude, I was so scared. They want, because that person's KPI probably is customer satisfaction.
Yeah.
I'm like, okay, I'll give you the survey, no problem. So the argument that, we don't want to inconvenience, forget it. Governments are doing it. We want data. So as operational KPI, customer satisfaction, but customer that I served. So it's mine. They are talking about me. So it goes onto my account. And we have applications for that. If anybody wants, let me know. I can direct you to a fantastic platform. Then average check. We know that. We have Micros system. Micros can give us any report we ever wanted. So they will know Janos and Szilvia. Szilvia has low average check compared to Janos. She's selling this, she's not selling that. We have all the data or tools, but we are not using it. So you put 5 KPIs, operational KPIs for every waiters and waitresses, and then 5 for knowledge, and you're good. That's a good start.
That's the easiest way to do. The easiest thing to do, and I usually bring up the average check example. Like, it's very simple, guys. People asking me how do we measure the success of an LMS? I was like, it's very simple. Check what is your average check now. Check what is in a month's time. Check what is in a year time. If it grows, there is a reason. Because if you check your average check, I noticed this back then in my previous workplace. So I checked the average check on yearly basis, 2021, 2022, 2023, and noticed that within 5 years, there was like, I don't know, 2-3 dirham differences.
Yeah.
It's always the same. And when we implemented our first LMS, which was like a Mickey Mouse version, but still it was better than nothing, we increased 12% the first year, another 7% the second year, another 5% the third year. And people are like, yeah, but maybe it's irrelevant of the number of guests you're serving. Average check is average check. Total number of guests versus total number of revenue you made.
Yeah.
So it doesn't matter how many guests you have.
Yeah.
Right? So you can see how much people are spending per head.
Absolutely.
And it's easy to measure, even
Very
after one
easy.
session.
Very easy to
Very
measure.
easy to measure, yet very few does.
And I don't know why. These are the easiest. And sometimes they would argue with you, oh, okay, I train, but it doesn't translate to performance. Okay, you don't even have the data. That's your guess. Because if you were measuring the L&D or the learning, the capabilities of your employees, then we could say, okay, Szilvia scored 80% on her knowledge test, right? And you can do a correlation study with her average check. And then immediately you see, maybe it's not working for Szilvia, but this theory that knowledge increases eventually average check, it actually is working, only it's not working for Szilvia. So Szilvia is an anomaly. She's an outlier. Why she cannot translate her knowledge into performance? Yeah. Then you're going to start looking at it. But every correlational study is like that. The higher level expertise you have, the higher level performance you will have. And that works 95% of the population. And you deal with the 5%. Maybe Szilvia is
this is where the proper management comes in. You go and ask a question.
Management.
What's going on? Exactly.
Yes, data-driven management or performance management comes into the picture. Okay, what's happening, Szilvia? And you will find Szilvia hates her job. Szilvia never wanted to be a waitress. Szilvia, whatever problem Szilvia is having. So it's not that the principle and the theory and what I'm doing is wrong. It's not working for Szilvia. Or maybe Szilvia has a horrible manager. Or maybe Szilvia is put in the wrong section on that bloody restaurant because she's always in section 5 and is in the corner and nobody ever brings customers to her.
It's more small tables rather than she's better performing on big tables.
Absolutely. So do we rotate stuff on their sections? Like, there is so much to hotel or restaurant operation. I'm not a restaurant. I managed F&B for a while, but these are very basics. Even if you put me in a restaurant tomorrow, I would put them in place very quickly, because even in capture ratio in the hotel, we have a number how much of guest of the staying guest we capture for breakfast, and we have a KPI. 80% is the minimum. If you have 100 people staying with you... If
you have no target, how do you reach it?
Yeah.
You let it to coincidence,
Absolutely.
basically.
You just, okay, we have guests, but how many coming for breakfast? We don't know. Okay, why are they not coming? We don't know. Well, you can't run businesses like that. You have 100 guests, 80 of them must come to the restaurant. If they don't, why are they not coming? Maybe it's your location.
We need a leaflet in a room. We need a standard from the reception to introduce. By the way, we have breakfast. You should come.
Yeah, maybe it's an airport restaurant or an airport hotel. Sorry. In this case, that capture ratio is very different. A resort, very different than to a city hotel. So you always look at what is my location. If it's a resort, it's 100%. Right? If it's a city hotel next to the airport where people just check in, nothing. Probably take away breakfast very quickly, but probably it's 20%. Nobody is coming because they are just using it for transit, right? But if you are in city hotel, business hotel, all business people are going for it, right? If you are a family hotel, they always go for breakfast, tourists, etc., etc. So you change your KPIs accordingly. But if you're just walking around in the dark and you don't even know what you're supposed to be measuring, how are you managing anything? You're not managing anything. You're just showing up every single day. Hoping for the best.
It is happening, unfortunately. Right. So you're obviously advising a lot of brands, different segments, mainly hospitality, where people can reach you if they want professional advice or if they need your help.
LinkedIn is my home. Szilvia Olah, I'm sure they can contact you and then you can direct them, but I'm on LinkedIn and they can find me.
Throughout your podcast, throughout your
My podcast, The
many.
Contrarian HR, and on Substack and on YouTube as well. I share ideas, discuss and brainstorm topics and issues and challenges and good stories related to business, HR, and people management. It's a massive topic. Nobody has the recipe. I think the recipe is know your context and be able to adapt. That's the recipe. Because people, especially now, I think it's the wrong thing to ask in any situation, but especially in such situations that we are having now, that what shall I do? People want the recipe, the ABC. There is no such a thing. Your context is very different.
Your business is unique. Your environment is unique. Your market is unique. You have to ask a question.
Figure it out.
Figure
Sit
it
down
out,
and
adapt.
figure it. And if you can't, then you are in the wrong role.
You're gonna be left behind.
Yeah.
All right. Thank you very much for the podcast.
Thank you.
It was very valuable. I appreciate your presence and your thoughtful suggestions. Thank you so much.
My pleasure.
Thank you.